Thank you for joining us on this ceasefire moment as we read through Genesis 22 in the literal standard version. And it comes to pass after these things that God has tried Abraham and says to him, Abraham, and he says, Here I am. And Yahweh says, Now take your son, your only son, whom you have loved, even Isaac, and go for yourself to the land of Moriah, and cause him to ascend there for a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I speak to you. And Abraham rises early in the morning and saddles his donkey and takes 2 of his young men with him and his son Isaac, and he cleaves the wood of the burnt offering and rises and goes to the place of which God has spoken to him. On the 3rd day, Abraham lifts up his eyes and sees the place from afar. And Abraham says to his young men, Remain by yourselves here with the donkey, and I and the youth go over there and worship and return to you. And Abraham takes the wood of the burnt offering and places on his son Isaac, and he takes in his hand the fire and the knife, and they go on both of them together. And Isaac speaks to his father Abraham and says, My father. And he says, Here I am, my son. And he says, Behold, the fire and the wood, and where the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abraham says, God provides for himself the lamb for a burnt offering, my son. And they go both of them together. And they come to the place of which God has spoken to him. And there Abraham builds the altar and arranges the wood and binds his son Isaac and places him on the altar above the wood. And Abraham puts forth his hand and takes the knife to slaughter his son. And the messenger of Yahweh calls to him from the heavens and says, Abraham, Abraham. And he says, Here I am. And Yahweh says, Do not put forth your hand to the youth. Do not do anything to him. For now I have known that you are fearing God and have not withheld your son, your only one, from me. And Abraham lifts up his eyes and looks, and behold, a ram behind, seized in the thicket by its thorns. And Abraham goes and takes the ram and causes it to ascend for a burnt offering instead of his son. And Abraham calls the name of that place Yahweh Jireh, because it is said this day in the mountain, Yahweh provides. And the messenger of Yahweh calls to Abraham a second time from the heavens and says, I have sworn by myself a declaration of Yahweh, that because you have done this thing and have not withheld your son, your only one, that blessing I bless you, and multiplying I multiply your seed as stars of the heaven, and as sand which is on the seashore, and your seed possesses the gate of his enemies, and all nations of the earth have blessed themselves in your seed, because you have listened to my voice. And Abraham turns back to his young men, and they rise and go together to Beersheba. And Abraham dwells in Beersheba. And it comes to pass after these things that it is declared to Abraham, saying, Behold, Milcah has borne, even she, sons to your brother Nahor, his firstborn Huz, and his brother Buz, and Kemuel, father of Aram, and Chest, and Hazo, and Pildash, and Jelaph, and Bethel, and Bethuel has begotten Rebekah. Milcah has borne these 8 to Nahor, Abraham's brother, and his concubine, whose name is Rumah, and she also has borne Tabah, and Gam, and Tahash, and Makash. Sorry for any names that I said way wrong.